The movies that time forgot. Okay, hi, welcome back. This is my third episode, third edition of Movies That Time Forgot. And today we're going to be talking about an old film called The Keep.
The Keep from Paramount Pictures.
Where do I start? It's based off of a novel by F. Paul Wilson. It was directed by Michael Mann. He would end up directing the film, the critically acclaimed film Heat, but this was the movie he made in 1983, just after Thief with James Caan. It's got an all-star cast. It's got Scott Glenn, it's got Robert Prosky, it's got a young Gabriel Byrne, it's got a young Ian McKellen, Jürgen Prochnow, famous German actor from Das Boot. The film takes place in World War II, and it is about a platoon of Nazi soldiers who are ordered to go to and take over a small village in Romania, set up base camp at this old citadel, which they call the Keep. The Keep itself is constructed backwards, not to keep people out, but to keep something in. The Keep has throughout it all of these, like 108 of these crosses embedded in the walls, supposedly made of nickel. The Keep is constructed as a prison to keep in this old, ancient demon. One night, a couple of German soldiers, when they discover that the crosses are actually made of silver, they try to chip away at one of them and try to steal some of the crosses. And they unleash this ancient demon which proceeds to kill the two Nazi soldiers. And now this demon is free amongst the citadel. It goes on a killing spree again and kills all the Nazi soldiers. The German soldiers, they want to enlist the help of a historian, someone to help them out, try to find out what this demon wants and how to stop it. So they enlist the help of a Dr. Kuza, who unfortunately he's a prisoner in a concentration camp. He's also dying, he's old, he's ill, and he has a daughter. Dr. Kuza is played by Ian McKellen. The demon saves Dr. Kuza's daughter. When it comes into contact with Dr. Kuza, the demon actually heals Dr. Kuza. It cures him. And when Dr. Kuza sees that this demon is actually not, it doesn't appear to be evil at first, Dr. Kuza also finds out that this demon is of ancient Jewish origins. That this demon is actually some sort of an avenging demon for Jewish people, and Dr. Kuza becomes an ally. The demon calls itself Malasar. At the same time, Scott Glenn's character, who's the lead character, called Golem, he awakens in Greece. Right away, as soon as Malasar is released, it cuts to a scene of Golem waking up, instantly knowing what's happening. He has some sort of psychic connection to Malasar, and he decides that he's going to go through the past, go to Romania, go to the Keep, and stop Malasar. He seems to have these supernatural powers. He has these glowing eyes. He just knows what Malasar is, and he's somehow connected to him. He also has, we find out this artifact that he's carrying is actually a weapon that can kill or at least re-imprison Malasar back into the Keep and stop him once and for all. So I first came across this movie. I read about it on IMDb years ago, like when I was in college, and I'd never seen a trailer for it or anything. I just saw a few images, the poster, and then I found out that I couldn't find a copy of The Keep anywhere on VHS or DVD or anything, and I'll talk about that later. And so I came across it. It was actually when I first got Netflix in like 2013, it was on Netflix, and I watched it there. And I was shocked to find out that the copy on Netflix was taken from an old VHS tape. It's very reminiscent of an old German silent film from 1915 called The Golem. It's also known as The Monster of Fate. Now, you may recognize images of the Golem character. I think it's been parodied before. I think The Simpsons did a parody of it. It's based off old Jewish folklore, an old folk tale. It's also it's considered a lost film or a partially lost film. Some of the footage is intact and a lot of footage is missing. It's incomplete. It's about an antique dealer who discovers an ancient statue made of clay that was created by a rabbi. The Golem was created to protect the Jewish people from anti-Semites, found in the ruins of a Jewish temple, and brought to life by an ancient amulet. The reason that I bring this up, the reason that I reference the Golem, is because Malasar, the demon in The Keep, is very much like the Golem. And I immediately thought of this when I saw The Keep the first time. The movie The Keep is basically a souped up modern day take on the Golem, the monster of fate. By the way, I should mention there's going to be spoilers for, it's too late now I guess, but spoilers for the movie The Keep. When Dr. Kuza allies and becomes sort of this apostle or disciple of Malasar, Malasar says, I can't leave this prison until you take this certain artifact out. Dr. Kuza realized he's been tricked by Malasar, and Malasar isn't quite an avenging demon, and then he turns on Dr. Kuza. There's a great scene that I really like where Gabriel Byrne's character, he's a SS officer, and after all the soldiers and all the men have been wiped out, he's the last one left, and he holds a cross up to Malasar.
What are you? Where do you come from?
Where am I from? I am from you.
And then you realize that Malasar is just this evil entity. He's really not on anyone's side. He's just the evil of all humanity. Here's the thing I really want to talk about The Keep. The story of the movie being made is way more interesting than the movie itself, because the movie is only 90 minutes. When I first saw it, I could tell that there was a lot of stuff cut out. I read that apparently when Michael Mann made the film, for whatever reason, he didn't have... I don't know if it's one of those classic studio interference situations or, Michael Mann didn't have final cut, but I read that Michael Mann's original cut, the complete rough cut of the movie, was 3.5 hours. And for whatever reason, they had to jam-pack that into 90 minutes. And it shows. You can tell. There is so much stuff that is missing. There's a lot of random scenes that just kind of happen out of nowhere that aren't really explained. There's some things that aren't really built up. There's no story arcs other than Dr. Kuza's character. You can tell there's so much backstory to a lot of these characters that's not in the film, and it's missing. The third act, the final battle between Glaken and Malasar, is very choppy, it's very rough. There's so many things that don't really fit very well. Apparently I read that Michael Mann had this really lengthy battle for Glaken and Malasar at the end. There's a lot of footage in the trailer that's not in the final movie. I've seen a lot of photographs of scenes that aren't in the movie. Apparently the visual effects supervisor died, unfortunately, very early on in the post-production process, and the remaining visual effects artists and crew, they had to basically work with what they had. There's clearly a longer story here that we're not seeing, that we're missing. I'm sure the book goes in depth. So many things that just, are left unanswered. Who exactly was Glaken? You don't really know who he is. You know his name, but you don't really know who he is. And what I know about him is only because of what I've put together from watching the film more than once. I don't really know for sure. He has probably the least amount of dialogue in the whole movie of all the characters. And he's credited first. He's supposed to be the main character. He's supposed to be the hero. So like I mentioned earlier, Glaken is in Greece when this happens. He wakes up. And I'm thinking to myself, why is he in Greece? Who is he? If he has the only weapon that can kill or stop Malasar, shouldn't he be in Romania at all times? If he has the weapon that can kill Malasar, shouldn't the guy whose job is to protect the villagers and to keep Malasar contained, shouldn't he be at the keep? Shouldn't he be living in the Citadel 24/7? Where did he get the weapon to kill Malasar? Why does he have it? What's the deal with Glaken? Why is he immortal? Why does he bleed green blood? How is he connected to Malasar? Who the hell is Glaken? What's going on? So when Malasar is released, people start going crazy and doing crazy things. There's this scene that comes out of nowhere. So there's this character played by Robert Prosky. He plays a priest. He plays this Orthodox Romanian priest in the village. And he's a friend of Dr. Kuza. And then, literally, out of nowhere, there's a scene where he gets into an argument with Dr. Kuza. Then he storms into his church, and the daughter finds him. And when she finds him, he's killed his dog. He's sacrificing his dog. He's drinking the dog's blood from a chalice, and his eyes are red, like he's possessed. And I'm just like, what the? And then it's never mentioned again.
What the fuck?
You never see him again. And when you do see him again, he's fine.
The fuck's going on?
And Glaken just has this kind of throwaway line, oh, it's Molasar, it's the evil, it's what happens when he's released. Oh, boy. There's also a random, pointless love scene, sex scene between Glaken and the daughter. He meets her at the inn that they're both staying at, coincidentally, conveniently. They talk for a few minutes, then they go on a hill somewhere, talk a little bit more, then the next thing you know, in the next scene they're having sex. Why? She doesn't know him. He doesn't know her. What? She just falls for him. And there's no like real chemistry, and there's no build up to their quote unquote relationship, if you can even call it that. So at the end, Glaken, he gets out the weapon. He has this final battle with Molasar. He uses this weapon. It's like a staff or a rod. He fires it at Molasar. Molasar goes back into the core of the citadel and into the keep, and he's trapped again for all time. Glaken, I guess because he's connected to Molasar, goes with him and is trapped there with him, and so they both they die together, or they're trapped together, presumably never to be released again. And that's when Dr. Cruz's daughter feels all sad and stuff like that. And then the film ends. Where Glaken got the weapon and how it works, we never know. Probably in the book. Now, despite all of its plot holes and continuity errors and everything, I know I've been bashing this a little bit, but I mean, I don't hate the film because it is a very unique film. Even though it's very reminiscent of the Golem, it is very original. Visually, the movie's great. From a technical aspect, I mean, some of the effects, they're neat, they're kind of cool, but they're very dated. But the practical effects are pretty cool. There's a lot of like lights and laser shows, and the sets are great. The costumes are great. Everything feels very authentic. It's gritty. The keep itself is amazing. It's huge, and it's a real practical set. It's not a green screen. Molasar, the creature itself, is very unique. He looks really cool. It's a guy in a suit, and there's a lot of optical effects on his face. Later on, he regenerates his skin, so he looks a little more buffed, and the cinematography is really good. I mean, unfortunately you can't really enjoy it very well because of this, and I'll talk about this in a sec. But for what it is, the cinematography looks great. The lighting, I mean, the score, the music is by Tangerine Dream. Tangerine Dream was an old 80s, I think it was a German band from the 80s. And they did a lot of movies in the 80s. They did the film Miracle Mile, which I talked about in the previous episode. They did Ridley Scott's Legend. They did Michael Mann's first movie Thief, and they did this, just to name a few. And it's sometimes they got a catchy tune. I like Tangerine Dream. Now here's what I want to talk about. Here's the most interesting part. The Keep has never been released on DVD or Blu-ray. It was only released in the formats VHS and Laserdisc. For you millennials out there, Laserdisc was from like the late 80s, early 90s. It was basically the prototype for DVD. It was basically movies on a vinyl record. Yes, that was a thing. This that you see here, I mean, I shouldn't even really have this, but so like I remember earlier when I said on Netflix, it looked like from a VHS tape, because it was. If it hadn't been on Netflix, I never would have saw it. This I picked up at a convention. It is basically the Laserdisc transfer onto a digital transfer onto a DVD disc. But yeah, this is really the only way that I can enjoy the movie. It's the only way that I can watch the movie. Why has it not been released on DVD or Blu-ray? This is kind of a mystery. I've read a few articles and I read some trivia, and I don't know if any of this is true. I've heard two major rumors. One is that Michael Mann, he's basically disowned the film. He's very disappointed with how it turned out. It was a negative experience and has refused to revisit it. He's basically told Paramount, the studio, from what I understand, he has made made a point to make sure that this film never sees the light of day, that it never gets revisited, it never gets remastered or re-edited, and it never gets put on DVD. The other rumor is basically the exact opposite. Michael Mann, he still has a soft spot for the film. It was a good experience. He likes the film, he likes the script, the story, and he does really want to revisit it one day, but he just hasn't gotten around to it. So I don't know what to go on. I don't know who to believe or what to believe. I don't know what's true or not. It's it's a cult classic now, but I would love for this movie to be remade. I would love for someone to take the book and adapt it, a proper adaptation, instead of remaking movies that don't need to be remade or are already perfect. Instead of prequels and spin-offs, make things that need a second chance, that didn't reach their potential the first time around, that were failures the first time around. Remake those, and I think The Keep is one of them. At the very least, I would like for Michael Mann and Paramount to get together, go into the old vaults of the Paramount Studios and the archives, fish out whatever footage, audio tracks they can, and just re-edit this movie, remake it from scratch. Just let him do what he wants. Let him make his director's cut. Let him make it 3.5 hours. I'll watch it. Shit. And then release it on DVD and Blu-ray, for everyone to see. Give it a second chance, give it second life. As most movies that didn't find their way, didn't find their voice or their audience back in the day. I at least would like that. Until then, I'll just hang on to this and pull it out and watch this whenever I feel like it. So, take what you get. Should the movie be remembered or forgotten? Yes, the movie should be remembered. And I'm repeating myself. I know I said it's not great, but it's not bad either. I think it should definitely be remembered and should be restored. What should I give it out of stars? 5 stars? I'll give it a 3. I can't give it a 2 because I do like the film. I like the story that's in there somewhere. 3 out of 5 stars. Well, that's it for this episode of Movies That Time Forgot. I've said all I want to say about The Keep. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Leave a comment if there's something that you think that I should check out, something that I should talk about. Make sure you subscribe to 3 Wiseman Films. I will see you guys in the next one. Okay. Take care, guys. Bye.